Bottles? Yep, just send a text.
Text DIG to 215215 for your complimentary bottle of Nugenix Total T2, the next generation testosterone booster. Text now and we'll include a bottle of Nugenix Thermo X, our newest, most powerful fat burner ever, absolutely free. Text DIG to 215215. That's DIG to 215215. These statements have not been evaluated by the FDA. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure.
Good afternoon. This rain still hanging around parts of I-24 throughout Coffee County, Rutherford County. Just be careful looking at the weather radar. It's still saturated with a lot of rain between Nashville and Chattanooga on 24. Over Montego Mountain, this traffic gets heavier now. 65 trying to get up through Madison. Extra travel time out here as well. Still some scattered showers. Hey, STR Towing and Recovery, if you need their help in any county here in Middle Tennessee, check them out online, strtow.com. I'm Commander Chuck with your on-time traffic.
Local farmers, local meats, vegetables, and other produce at the Winter Spring Rutherford County Farmers Market.
Bundle up and make your way every Friday at Lane Agri Park.
Rutherford weather.
Winter storm watch goes into effect Friday night. Tonight, scattered showers with a low temperature of 33 degrees. Thursday, sunny with a high temperature of 49 degrees. I'm meteorologist Ray Miller from the WGNS Rutherford Weather Center. Right now, it's 45.
We do it your way at Sir Pizza.
Your favorites can now be ordered online at sirpizzatn.com. Carryout and delivery are available. Just go to sirpizzatn.com and tap the location closest to you.
We're the Good Neighbor Network. FM 101.9 and AM 1450 Murfreesboro. FM 100.5 Smyrna. Audio and video streaming at wgnsradio.com.
From the first pitch to the final buzzer, this is where the conversation starts. All sports talk on WGNS and Big G TV, covering the Preps, MTSU, news from Tennessee and nationwide. Now, here's All Sports Talk on the Good Neighbor Network.
And good evening, everyone. Welcome back to your favorite sports show and mine. Well, at least maybe. It's All Sports Talk here on a beautiful Wednesday night. Wednesday, January 21st, 2026. Hope you had a great Martin Luther King holiday weekend, and wow, what a crazy weekend that was in the world of sports. Shifting landscapes and a lot left in the rubble that we're going to have to sort through, try to figure out what to make of what we saw both in college football and the NFL, and also in college basketball. More specifically here in the Mid-State, we'll also talk some college tennis. Lots of stuff to get to on today's show. And we're going to try to make it as entertaining as possible for you before, the big Snowmageddon comes in this weekend. So that's certainly a point of concern for a lot of people. But we're going to try to alleviate some concerns with some fun, all sports talk on this Wednesday night. And hopefully I'll be able to talk a little bit better. Let's not waste any more time and get right into it. We're going to start things off with MTSU men's basketball. That's our usual starting point here on a Wednesday night. And wow, what a fantastic game that we saw on Saturday night between the Blue Raiders and Missouri State. If anyone questioned the inclusion of teams like the Bears and the Delaware Blue Hens for whatever reason, look at games like this to show how they can compete and add to Conference USA, because I think this was one of the best examples of how teams can immediately come into a new conference and compete at a high level. And I think the new additions for Conference USA have been tremendous in many sports, but we're seeing the fruits of that labor in men's basketball. If you have not seen this game in full yet, I would highly advise you go back. You can actually check it out on the WGNS website. We've got it under the podcast section for full men's basketball games. You should be able to go back there and I think take a look at it, but if you can't there, then check out ESPN Plus, because there's a full replay of the game there, and wow, you will not be disappointed at all. This may have been the best game that we've seen at Murphy Center, and I might be a little hyperbolic in saying that, but I think it's the best game in the Glass House in a number of years. The only ones that come to mind for me, now granted I am 22 years old, so I don't have the full perspective that some of you more seasoned fans may have, but the ones that come to mind are the Florida Atlantic game in 2023. That was the year that FAU made the run to the Final Four, which MTSU beat them in the Glass House that year and ended their current winning streak. And then any games against Western Kentucky, because there's just a certain vibe and certain energy that games against Western bring. But the electricity in this game that was generated could have sustained a power plant. That's how electric and how exciting it was to watch this game. So it was truly sensational, I think is the best way to describe it. MTSU wins 90-87 in not one, but 2 overtimes. And my goodness, they had to do it the hard way. Early in the game, it was the three-point shot that MTSU was using to their advantage, and they started off playing well because of that. 5 for 8 beyond the arc in the first 10 minutes of the game. The issue for MTSU really in that early portion was that Missouri State is so good inside, and they have a couple of really nice players who that's kind of their strong suit, and they use that to their advantage to keep up with MTSU. And the Blue Raiders got outscored 12-2 in the paint during that time. So there were 2 lopsided matchups going on. There was the three-point shooting of MTSU, which if you know the Blue Raiders, you know they love three-point shooting. That's been their big prerogative all year. That's kind of their mission more often than not, is to go out and try to secure the three-point advantage, and they win that battle more often than not, at least as far as this season goes. But in the paint, they've sometimes been combated pretty well, and Missouri State did a really good job of using their paint presence to kind of put MTSU on their heels just a little bit in the early going. It was a good thing that MTSU is making those three-point shots, is what I'll say, because they had to have all of that come together in order to ultimately stay on top. If you take away the three-point shooting, Missouri State's probably dominating this game. And, it's funny. I called a high school game last night. Middle Tennessee Shelbyville Central took on the Summit Spartans in boys action. And it felt like the Golden Eagles were on top of that game most of the way through. It felt like they were dominating, but Summit was able to respond with the three-point shot. And then at some point, Shelbyville Central kind of just unleashed the cannon and started going for more threes themselves, and eventually they were able to overpower Summit on their way to a big win. By the way, check that out on the Rooster 101.5 if you're interested. But I thought about that, and then I looked back at this game, and MTSU really didn't change their style of play, so to speak, but they did adjust defensively, and I think that was the key. We'll get into that a little bit more later, but at the half, MTSU 61% from the field, and considering they're a three-point shooting team first, that is a testament to just how efficient that they are from the field, and that's why they've been so hard for opponents to defeat this season. What's wild is, in spite of that, Missouri State was still able to make it a 2-point game at the half, 38-36 Blue Raiders. So, again, Missouri State is a very tough, very rugged team. They like to get inside. They like to have a post presence. We saw that again in this game. MTSU kind of knew that going in, but they still had to be prepared for it. And obviously, as you can tell at half, it was a battle between those two teams. Second half ended up being more of the same because Missouri State was able to get more consistent looks at the rim and in the paint. But MTSU, they found a way to answer from the three-point line yet again. That was all reliable. It's what didn't go away for MTSU in this game was that three-point shooting ability. Both teams kind of stuck with those styles because they were working so well. So I don't think the question was which team is going to get uncomfortable, which team is going to go away from what's working. I think it was more a question of which defense would be able to adjust quick enough to make the stops, and it didn't happen for the majority of this game. What I loved about it for MTSU was that despite the fact Missouri State was in control in the post, they were able to get timely shooting, and that is such an underrated commodity in the sport of basketball. Now, this concept is probably a little bit new as far as me introducing it, because I haven't talked about it a lot on this show, but I think timely shooting is just finding a way to make those shots when it matters the most, because there are going to be times where it feels like you're on the back foot and you just got to get something, and being able to shoot it from distance really helps in those moments because it keeps you in the game, keeps momentum swung a little bit more in your favor, and you never truly get out of it. That was the beauty of this game overall, is that neither team was able to fully wrestle control away. It was never looking like it was going to be a runaway for either side. The best games to me, and this is the sports broadcaster coming out in me here, but it's when a game tells a story. I think it's when it's at its best. And this told a story, to me, of a heavyweight boxing match. It was incredible to witness, and after all that, we needed overtime. So regulation was not enough in this game, and we were given another treat in overtime and then double overtime. Kamari Lands proceeded to happen in overtime. He might be human, but I can't really be for sure. I want to do some checks to see if this guy really is from our world. But he not only goes off in this game, but he also shoots this wild buzzer beater to bring the game into double overtime at 78. Clutch factor goes to Kamari Lands. He's been clutch all year. He's made shots at some of the biggest moments. And again, he does it for MTSU at their most critical juncture when they could have very easily surrendered the game. Kamari Lands says, I'm not going to back down. I'm not going to quit. I'm going to keep my team in the game. All credit to Kamari Lands for doing that. MTSU then uses that opportunity in double overtime to take advantage with clutch shooting, and again, the defense began to adjust, and I think this was the point too where Missouri State started to run out of gas just a little bit. They still kept pace with MTSU overall, but it felt like the Blue Raiders had just a little bit more of a spark. I don't know if you guys caught that, but that's the way it felt to me anyway. Maybe I'm wrong in saying that, but that's why conditioning is so important in the sport of basketball, because you're running up and down the floor so many times. You got to be able to keep that pace all the way through, even if it goes to double overtime. And that's what MTSU was able to do, picking up the 90-87 win. First double overtime game in a number of years. I'm trying to remember the last one in my memory bank, and it's tough for me to think of one. Lands goes off, gets 21 points, career high 7 3-pointers. So Kamari Lands, in a way, kind of dictated what MTSU wanted to do with this game. It was going to be a lot of three-point shooting, and they made the most of those opportunities. But don't sleep on Torrey Alston either. Another man on a mission with 22 points, a team high, gets 9 rebounds as well, and he was ultra efficient from the field. We talked about how good MTSU was from the field. Well, Torrey Alston was a large part of that, and again, he gets 9 rebounds. Those second chance opportunities were so key in keeping MTSU in the game and giving them those second chance opportunities to get the score a little bit higher and get it above what it was as far as the lead goes, which is a convoluted way of saying that, but you get my point. Nick McDevitt said after the game that it was hard fought, and I could not agree more with that statement. Middle is now 11-7, 5-2 Conference USA record, currently second in the standings. So when you look at the overall race in Conference USA, it's still very much anybody's game. The only team right now that is above them is Liberty at 7-0. So the Flames are right now the pinnacle of Conference USA, obviously coming off last year's Conference USA title. That matchup is on the horizon. It's going to be coming up very soon. MTSU obviously is looking forward to that. There is a lot of questioning, I should say, around when games are going to take place. MTSU scheduled for a game this Saturday night against Jacksonville State. Obviously, though, there is a snow issue that is on the horizon as well. Snowmageddon, as it's probably going to be known, because we're expecting somewhere around 1 foot to 1.5 feet of snow, depending on who you ask. So as for when those games are going to take place, I don't know for sure. It's all still in flux, even at the time that I'm recording this. By the way, this is a pre-recorded episode, just to have full disclosure on that. But when I look at all of that, MTSU is just going to have to stay mentally prepared for whatever they've got coming their way. And that matchup with Liberty, man, it's scheduled, I think, for next Thursday. But whenever it arrives, it's going to be a big one. And it may determine who gets the 1 seed in Conference USA, depending on how things work out the rest of the season. So very excited to see that. Chip Walters, regardless, will be on the call for either side. If the Jacksonville State game is next, that is not one to sleep on. I know a lot of people, maybe even myself included, looking ahead to that Liberty game, but Jacksonville State is a strong team. They've got a very solid squad. Don't let the 9-9 overall record deceive you, because they had some tough out-of-conference games. This is a very solid team. 4-3 in conference play, already have a couple players over 10 points per game. I think the question that MTSU has to ask themselves down the stretch here is, will they be able to convert their defense in a better fashion to the paint game that we saw from Missouri State? Can they transition well? We'll see. We'll see. It's going to be a very entertaining game whenever it happens. And again, Chip Walters will be on the call right here on the Good Neighbor Network. Speaking of dramatic victories, and I'll make this quick, MTSU women's basketball joins the party, says hello. They got a win in Huntsville, Texas, 68-67 over the Sam Houston Bearcats. Down 38-32 at the half for reference. down by as much as 12 in the second quarter. So don't get it twisted that this was some runaway or easy win, because it definitely was not. Big momentum shift in the third quarter for MTSU was being able to finally get control away from the Bearcats. They go on a 9-0 run to close that gap and eventually take the lead. This goes back to playing consistent basketball, which MTSU has done a much better job as of late. I think they're playing really good momentum basketball. They're letting the wave of momentum kind of guide them forward, and they're not falling off on their surfboard, which is a weird analogy, but just follow me on that one. They're playing momentum basketball, they're riding the wave of momentum, and they're putting themselves in position to get victories. And the fourth quarter is when the takeover really happened. Rick Insell always prioritizes that, playing well late, and they did it again here. They forced 17 turnovers against Sam Houston. Despite that, they commit 20 of their own, so the turnover problem still somewhat prevalent. That handicapped them from controlling the game a little bit more. But Sam Houston did not have a loss in conference play before that. They're a very solid team defensively. MTSU still overcame all of that and found a way to win, so you've got to credit the Lady Raiders defense for that. Elena Contreras goes for 22 points. She's been a great leader for this squad as of late. 7 for 11 from the field. She wasn't alone, though. Macy Pfeiffer gets rock solid again with 15. Savannah Davis quietly great with 11. Lady Raiders, man, they're 10-8 overall, 5-1 in Conference USA play. Currently, though, it is a stacked house up at the top of the standings. You've got Sam Houston, Louisiana Tech, and Missouri State all with one conference loss, as well as MTSU. So the Lady Raiders are going to have to be ready for whatever competition heads their way. But knowing how Coach Insell and his staff like to get things done and how the team usually improves throughout the year, I think MTSU is certainly going to be in that race for the 1 seed at the end of the season and perhaps for a conference tournament title. So shout out to MTSU women's basketball picking up the big victory on Saturday night. When we come back, we'll talk MTSU men's tennis. They're making some historic waves this week, and we'll also talk a little bit about the NFL playoffs and all the chaos we saw this past weekend. Back in a few.
Are you paying too much for home and auto insurance? Let the experienced professionals at My Team Insurance in Murfreesboro help. With decades of experience, their team provides superior customer service, low rates, and a clear understanding of your coverage needs. Whether it's home, auto, health, business, or life insurance, My Team Insurance makes protection simple and affordable. Visit myteaminsurance.com today. That's myteaminsurance.com. My Team Insurance, proud supporters of the Blue Raiders.
Whether you need general vehicle upkeep and maintenance or a complete vehicle overhaul, Hall's Auto Care is here for you. We're locally owned and operated by Greg Hall and have been in business since 2014. You'll get excellent service and trustworthy advice with Hall's Auto Care. A+ rated with the Better Business Bureau. We're ready to help get you safely on the road. Hall's Auto Care, 907 Ridgely Road, just off Broad Street behind Chili's. Online at hallsautocare.net. Hall's Auto Care.
At State Farm, when home and auto work as a team, you score and save money. I'm State Farm agent Andy Wama. Give me a call at 615-890-0850 and let's work together to win big by saving money on home and auto. With the service you get from State Farm, you might think our car insurance costs more. I'm State Farm agent Andy Wama. Give me a call at 615-890-0850 and let me show you with discounts up to 40%. You may find it even costs less.
Sign-ups are going on right now for First Shot's Winter Basketball League in Rutherford County. Coach Andy Herzer guides kids to sharpen basketball skills and build teamwork through exciting clinics and games. Since 2003, First Shot has empowered youth to grow in mind, spirit, and body. Don't miss out. Join the fun and develop lifelong skills. Visit FirstShotTN.org today and register for the Winter Basketball League. That's FirstShotTN.org.
WGNS. This is Peter Demas, and here is this week's Demas's Emergency Responder of the Week.
Murfreesboro police officer and SRO Cole Glass was on a bike patrol when he noticed a child struggling with a broken bike chain. The boy, visibly frustrated, told Glass the chain came off. Without hesitation, Glass knelt and fixed it, and the moment became a small but powerful reminder of the heart behind the badge. Murfreesboro police officer Cole Glass's response exemplifies the kind of everyday heroism that often goes unnoticed. A willingness to pause engage, and uplift a neighbor in need.
When you see a firefighter, police officer, paramedic, or telecommunicator going the extra mile, let WGNS know, and we at Demas's Restaurant will salute them as the emergency responder of the week.
Good afternoon. Still slow-go traffic down in Williamson County as we check it out live. 65 south there at 840, trying to get down into Spring Hill. It's running slow now on the south loop in both directions here, 40 east and west at Demonbreun and Broadway, as it also continues to just crawl along. 40 east here at Fessler's, trying to get out past Donaldson Pike. Hey, STR Towing and Recovery can help you in any county you're in here in Middle Tennessee. If you need a car towed or a truck, call STR Towing and Recovery. I'm Commander Chuck, your on-time traffic.
It's all sports talk from the Good Neighbor Network, FM 1019, 100.5, AM 1450, WGNSradio.com, and Big G TV.
Welcome back. That's right. It is all sports talk on a Wednesday night, Wednesday, January 21st. 2026. Dylan Simmons with you, preparing for Snowmageddon. I know everybody's out there. They're getting in the stores. They're trying to get their heaters worked out, maybe seeing if they can get a generator, whatever you need. I would definitely leave the sinks on for the snowstorm coming up this weekend. If you haven't heard about all this, I would advise you check the weather. And, of course, we'll keep you cued in right here on WGNS as far as the weather goes. But, yeah, expecting a foot to a foot and a half of snow. But just because all that is happening doesn't mean that we're going to stop all sports talk this week, because we have a lot to go over and a lot to discuss. So let's move on again with the show. We're going to move on to MTSU men's tennis, and they are making moves in a big, big way. I mentioned this before the break, but they made a little bit of history just last night. So, first of all, have you heard about men's tennis? Because they're looking awesome so far. Last night, picking up a massive win over the Harvard Crimson. Like I told you last week, Harvard in the world of men's tennis is absolutely a power team from a power conference in the Ivy League. Now, I know a lot of people may not be as familiar with college tennis, and they may not understand just how good the Ivy League is in that sport. But trust me, folks, they are very, very good. They've always been competitive, whether it's Harvard, Yale, Princeton, whoever. They always bring the fight to these teams really in any location and from any conference, and they do the same with MTSU. So for MTSU to get this win, absolutely massive. And it came largely because of what Jimmy Borndame has instilled on this team and for the standard that he has established. One thing I've noticed about MTSU men's tennis since I began covering them roughly 4 years ago, I'd say, is that they play consistently with spirit, with effort, and a lot of determination. They don't get daunted very easily. They find a way throughout any circumstances that they may face to come away with victories. You know, it was interesting. I had Coach Borndame on a couple weeks ago here, here on All Sports Talk. He talked about Curt Cignetti, who obviously won the national championship Monday night. His mentality and how he goes about the process of making a team great. And Jimmy obviously looked up to him, and he talked about that and how he tries to instill similar aspects on his own team. And I think you see that, even though it's a completely different sport, MTSU plays in a similar fashion. They're very disciplined. They execute well. They do the little things really well, too. If you're going to beat the Blue Raiders, you're going to have to earn it. And MTSU goes out there and shows that every single time. This was MTSU's first win over Harvard since 2003. So it's their first win since before I was born. I was born in September 14th of 2003. So they had not beat Harvard since I've been alive, which is wild to think about. I'm 22 years old. So that just goes to show you how long it had been, but it also is a testament to how good Harvard's been in this matchup as of late. Been a very tough opponent for MTSU to deal with. First ever home win against Harvard as well. Had never beaten them in Murfreesboro. Haven't been too many times, but that's still an impressive victory. This wasn't a fluke victory either. I mean, this was domination for the most part from Blue Raiders men's tennis. They dominated both in doubles and singles. For those who don't know, doubles is when both teams have two players playing another two players in tandem. To make it a bit more simple, it's basically a 2-on-2 as far as tennis goes. MTSU got it, and they set the tone with it. That's the thing for MTSU that they've used a lot, not just this year, but in past years. a lot of times you'll see MTSU get that doubles point, and then you're automatically putting the opponent behind the 8 ball. So it almost makes it more of a mental game from there on out. And if you listen to a lot of tennis players and a lot of tennis broadcasters, I heard Chris Fowler mentioning this the other day, but tennis is very much a mental game, especially when you're playing at that high of a level. The margins of error are so thin that if you overthink a situation or get in your own head, it is a tough thing to come back from, especially since you are playing on a team, but you're only able to control what you're doing as a one-on-one person. So to go out there and to get that doubles point and set that in the mind of your opponent, it's a big thing for MTSU and shows their attack mentality to start off. In singles play, MTSU just as good. They started by getting 3 straight singles victories. At that point, the match is sealed. And I'm not saying virtually sealed either. It was officially sealed because in tennis, you just need 4 points to win the match. It's a best of 7, so there are 6 singles courts, and if you win 3 of those after getting the doubles point, that adds up to 4, you win the match. And that's exactly what MTSU did. So, I mean, that start is beyond impressive. Again, against a really good high-level Ivy League team that you haven't beaten in 22 years, you go out there and you pretty well handle business. I mean, that's impressive. Again, says a lot about the development of this team, even with a lot of new pieces. Again, they have 4 new freshmen, 4 new transfers coming in this season, and they look like they haven't broken a sweat and they haven't missed a beat. I mean, it's been super impressive what they've been able to do so far. They also had the wins over Lipscomb and Tennessee Tech on Friday, and they pick up the big weekday win last night over Harvard, and that needs to be commended. Really impressive stuff from MTSU men's tennis, and they should be proud of themselves. Players will tell you this as well, but in an environment like that, like the Adams Tennis Complex, it's hard for a player, especially a road player, to sometimes get fully concentrated. I've said it before, but ATC is one of the best environments for watching not just college tennis, but college sports in general. It is a tough environment if you're a road team, but if you are a Blue Raider, you love that place. You want people to be jumping up and down. You want them to be excited, and you want to feel that energy. I've seen some players, Francisco Rocha was a great example of that when he was with MTSU men's tennis. He thrived off of those opportunities. He thrived off of people getting excited, getting enthusiastic. He would use that as energy for himself because I think he looked at it as motivation to go out there and perform better. That's what MTSU did again last night. My only regret is I didn't get to see it in person. I was obviously at the basketball game last night with Shelbyville Central Summit. Would have loved to have been at the ATC, but able to watch it back and see that, yeah, this team is as good as advertised so far. I think you could sense Jimmy's optimism, Coach Borndame's optimism, when I talked to him a couple weeks ago about the potential of this team and the ability that they had. I think you're seeing that come to full roost here. And there's a reason they're that good at Adams Tennis Complex. There was a time when MTSU had the longest home winning streak in the nation. Not just in, the Conference USA or whatever the case may be, in the country. They were beating out some of the best teams that you can find to get that streak. They'd won, I think, 34 in a row at one point in time. I think the streak actually got longer after that, but they won a lot of home games in a row. Needless to say, they're almost impossible to beat at ATC, and they prove it again with a big win over Harvard last night. Next up for men's tennis, they face off against UAB and Eastern Kentucky. That's going to be Friday at the ATC, hopefully before Snowmageddon comes to Murfreesboro. Haven't heard anything officially about times moving for those matches. As I'm saying that, they could have already moved. Again, we'll see as the day goes on. But with both teams being not super far on the road, there is a chance you could play both of them Friday if they chose to drove through the night. But I wouldn't be shocked if they get moved up, changed, or something happens. So it's something to keep an eye on. But assuming everything works out the way it should, if MTSU gets a win over a team from the American Conference, just shows you further validation for how great they can be this year. And also, it would also, in a way, it's not really a rivalry game, but UAB was a former Conference USA team, a team that MTSU has played in the past. That may add a little bit of motivation to it as well. So if you can, I would try to check that out, because that match is going to be awesome. So check out those matches, I should say, Friday night at the ATC if you can. I think the matches are 1 and 5 to be specific, so definitely check that out. And check out MTSU Men's Tennis. They are doing special things already here in this season. NFL playoffs were this past weekend. I'm just going to do a few quick takeaways from what I saw. The game that really springs to mind for me was Bills-Broncos. What a wild game. I watched most of the second half of that one, had to come home a little bit later, but got to see the second half, and wow. That's a game that you remember for a long time, and I was stunned really at how the Bills, to me, kind of put themselves behind the 8 ball. I feel for Josh Allen. He went out there and played a pretty good game for the most part, but the turnovers, man, I think he committed 4 of them on his own, and he had that costly fumble at the end of the half, and it's disappointing but almost amazing in the fact that Buffalo's had a lot of opportunities in the playoffs, but they just can't quite put all the pieces together. And, man, I feel for the players and the people of Buffalo because they've had to deal with a lot of not only heartbreaking exits in recent years, but in their history. I mean, this is a team that lost 4 Super Bowls in the 90s, and they fall to the Broncos here. And I think overall Buffalo was probably the better team. They just kind of overplayed it. Committed too many mistakes, allowed Denver's defense to feast, and they set up the Broncos with great field position time and time again. They fell down 23-10 early, and they're fortunate it was not a lot worse because it could have gotten worse. Credit to Bo Nix and the Broncos for winning in overtime. I know that a lot of people are going to be talking about that catch situation. Was it a catch? Was it not? Here's what I'll say about that. I saw a very similar play in 2011, game of the century, if you remember in college football. Number 1 LSU goes to number 2 Alabama. There was a very similar play. I think Eric Reed was involved in that for LSU. He picked the pass off. I can't remember who the receiver was. I'm going to have to think back on that. But it was the same kind of play where the guy, the receiver, has his hands on it at the start, but he doesn't survive the ground. They called it an interception then. So when I saw this, I thought it's just like that. So I would call it an interception. I think the officials got the call right. I'm not an official. I don't claim to be an official. I don't want to be an official, quite frankly, because it's a very thankless task. But I think they got this call right. And at the end of the day, if there's fans out there who are upset, I would just say, listen, I understand, but Buffalo had opportunities to make up some ground. They had opportunities to win this game, and they kind of let it slip by the wayside. So I think the Bills have to take a lot of responsibility for this loss, and obviously some great change already. Sean McDermott has been fired. So not great in the way of like, oh, it's great he got fired. No, I'm saying just overall it's a big magnitude level of change there in Buffalo. So I'm curious to see what they do and how the team looks in 2026 with McDermott no longer at the helm. And for the Broncos, man, tough deal with Bo Nix. That injury is just heartbreaking. And now they host the Patriots in the AFC Championship game, and you have to wonder, with Bo Nix out, Jarrett Stidham in, can the Broncos still win? Stidham's had some great games before, and he's playing his former team, but Drake May, as they call him, he is certainly going to be ready for the moment. So that's going to be a lot of fun coming up. I believe it's on Sunday, AFC Championship game in Denver. I was also curious watching that Seattle-San Francisco game. Seahawks just blew them out. I did not realize. I mean, you watch the Seahawks and you think, oh, they're a special team, and obviously they are, but man, their defense, oh my goodness, they got after San Francisco. I know the 49ers are banged up, but this was pure domination. And Sam Darnold, man, 2 playoff wins now, or excuse me, just 1 playoff win because the Seahawks were the 1 seed, but a big playoff win here. Nice redemption story after what happened to him in the Vikings last year, coming back and playing just as good, if not better, this season. Seahawks are legit Super Bowl contenders, folks. To do that to the 49ers is not easy. Just ask the Eagles. They'll tell you that was special. So full credit goes to Seattle over San Francisco for getting that win in that divisional round matchup of NFC West opponents. And then the other game that I really paid close attention to, I guess we'll touch on all 4, might as well at this point, but Patriots versus Texans, again, much like Buffalo, Denver, it felt like Houston kind of gave the game away. C.J. Stroud just overall not his best night. Threw a bunch of interceptions, I think 4 total, just didn't seem keyed in. New England did not play their best brand of football, but when you get gifted that many interceptions and that many turnovers, you got to cash in. That's exactly what New England did. Drake May played well enough down the stretch despite throwing an interception, put the Patriots in position to close out that game. New England fans have fell in love with him. I think a lot of people around the league have fell in love with him. Just look at the Drake May memes, and you'll know what I'm talking about. Patriots going to be special. We'll see how they handle Denver coming up on Sunday. And lastly, Rams-Bears. Bears fought hard. Good defensive effort from them. As a Packers fan, I was a little more, I guess, vindicated to see them lose just because, I was a salty Packers fan. But in all seriousness, credit to Caleb Williams. That last-second throw was insane. That guy's special. He's going to do big things in the league. I know Bears fans aren't happy about the loss, but I wouldn't fret too much because your team is special. They got a lot of skill, and I hope them and the Packers have a lot of fun battles to come in the NFC North. And the Rams, they find a way to pull it out. Man, it didn't look good for a while there, but their defense came up with big plays. Stafford looking like an MVP candidate, probably the MVP. Rams do what they need to do to get the win there. So it'll be Rams-Seahawks NFC West showdown in the NFC title game. When we come back, we're going to talk the college football playoff national championship game on Monday night and how the Indiana Hoosiers made history. Back in just a few right here on All Sports Talk.
This is Chip Walters, and I'm honored to be your 2024 MTAR Realtor of the Year. I'm with Exit Realty Bob Lamb & Associates, and like many of you, I've seen the real estate market shift and change. People often ask, Chip, what's really going on? Well, that's a great question, and I believe in answering with solid, factual data. So let's cut through some of the noise. I invite you to reach out. Let's have a conversation about your real estate goals and the current market trends in your neighborhood. You can find all my contact information at choosechip.net.
Jennings & Ayers Funeral Home has served Murfreesboro families with compassion and care since 1880. As a family-owned funeral home, we're committed to honoring every life with dignity through traditional services, cremation options, and pre-planning that gives you peace of mind. For over 140 years, we've been here when it matters most. Visit JenningsandAyers.com. Jennings & Ayers Funeral Home, honoring life and comforting families since 1880.
Holden Hardware has been serving the hardware needs of this community since 1948. This is Raleigh Holden Jr. I want to thank our many customers who have helped to keep us in business all these years. I also want to invite those who may be new to this community or have not been in the store lately to visit us. Come experience a unique hardware buying atmosphere with wood floors, old furniture and fixtures, along with a helpful and knowledgeable sales staff. Holden Hardware on the west side of the public square since 1948.
This is a paid legal ad.
You've probably heard it a million times. If you're injured, call a lawyer. And you probably haven't because you don't know how much it will cost, how long it will take, or even if you have a case. At the law offices of John Day, we provide a free initial consultation because we understand that folks don't want to pay a lawyer only to find out they don't have a case. If you think we can help, we do so on a contingency basis, which means we only get paid if you do. Seriously injured? Call me, John Day.
Next on All Sports Talk, it's the Blue Raider Insider Report with Chip Walters of Exit Realty, Bob Lamb & Associates.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. We'll start with men's tennis, where Middle Tennessee achieved a 6-1 win over Harvard on Tuesday at the Adams Tennis Complex, securing the doubles point and winning 5 out of 6 singles matches. The victory represents Middle Tennessee's first home win against Harvard, as the Crimson had never previously played in Murfreesboro. It's also the Blue Raiders' first win over the Crimson since the 2003 season, when they defeated then number 30 Harvard 4-3 in Montgomery, Alabama. Middle took an early lead in claiming the doubles point. Kareem Alameen and Andre Horak started the competition with a 6-1 win over the doubles team of Harvard. Eric Creevy and Jonas Dzopiak both secured a 6-4 victory at Court 2. In singles play, the Blue Raiders achieved 3 straight set victories. Creevy completed his first match with a decisive 6-2, 6-1 win. Horak followed with a 6-4, 6-2 win. And senior Freddie Murray added another point with a 6-3, 6-2 win. Middle Tennessee also secured victories in closely contested matches. Alameen defeated his opponent 7-5, 6-2 at the number 2 slot, and freshman Antoine Mayoral bounced back after dropping the second set to win his match 6-4, 1-6, 6-2 on court 4. Harvard's only point came from Blocken, who edged Dzopiak 6-3, 7-6, 7-5 in court 3. With that in mind, Antoine Mayoral earned his first Conference USA Athlete of the Week honor, while senior Kareem Alameen and Andre Horak were named the Conference USA Men's Doubles Team of the Week. You can follow the Blue Raiders on social media at Blue Raider Men's Tennis, MT_Men's Tennis on Twitter, and MT_Men's Tennis on Instagram. All right, after a successful weekend at the Vanderbilt Invitational, Mustafa Bakpin was named the Conference USA Men's Track Athlete of the Week, and Evan Tomlinson was named the Conference USA Male Freshman of the Week. That was announced by the league office on January 20th. Bobkin showed out for Middle Tennessee at the Vanderbilt Invitational. He now holds the fastest times in Conference USA in the 60-meter and 200-meter, and was also part of the Blue Raider relay team, who holds the fastest 4x400-meter time in the conference. Tomlinson also had an impressive showing at Vanderbilt after the weekend in Nashville. He now holds the fastest mark of all freshmen in Conference USA in the 200-meter, second fastest from all freshmen in the 60, and was part of the relay team that holds the fastest 4x400 time in Conference USA. All right, let's turn to women's basketball. The countdown to 500 wins for Coach Rick Insel is on. The chance to break that mark comes on Thursday night when the Lady Raiders will take on Delaware. Now, here's a note. For the game that was scheduled for Saturday, it has now been moved to Friday. That is against Liberty. So that means the Lady Raiders will play Thursday against Delaware and Friday against Liberty, back-to-back days, both games at 6:30 at Murphy Center. Looking at the conference schedule for tomorrow night, Sam Houston will be at FIU, UTEP at Kennesaw State, Liberty at Western Kentucky, Louisiana Tech at Missouri State, New Mexico State at Jacksonville State. Now, the Blue Raider men not scheduled to play Jacksonville State until Saturday, and to this point, Jacksonville State has refused to move the game up to Friday, even though neither Jacksonville State nor Middle Tennessee's men have a game on Thursday. So with the weather coming in, could be a little dicey for the Blue Raiders getting home as long as Jacksonville State continues to hold the line on not changing the date of that game. All right, that's it for today, folks. We'll have another update for you tomorrow right here on the Big G, WGNS.
It's all sports talk from the Good Neighbor Network, FM 1019, 100.5, AM 1450, wgnsradio.com, and Big G TV.
Thank you, Chipper, and welcome back to All Sports Talk here on a Wednesday night. Again, if you need another reminder, it's Wednesday, January 21st, 2026, prepping for Snowmageddon. Again, if you need another reminder of that too, 12 to 16 inches, make sure you pack accordingly. And hey, if you need to, you can listen to some All Sports Talk reruns on YouTube. We've got a full catalog on YouTube. Go to News Radio WGNS to do that. Not just me, but the whole crew as part of All Sports Talk is on there. So make sure to check that out if you're interested. And hopefully that can keep you a little more cozy and a little more occupied as we brace for some cabin fever coming up in the next few days. Speaking of uncomfortable situations, I guess we need to talk about it. The College Football Playoff National Championship game did indeed happen Monday night, and my Miami Hurricanes fell by a score of 27-21 to the new national champions, top-seeded Indiana Hoosiers. Curt Cignetti gets the job done. I'm going to be honest, folks, this was the worst pain I've ever experienced as a sports fan, and I've been through some stuff. Packers-Seahawks NFC Championship game comes to mind. Miami losing to MTSU, which actually was great as a Blue Raider fan, but as a Miami fan, obviously it was a frustrating loss. The Packers losing this year to the Bears, down 21-3 or up 21-3, and then losing the game. But this was probably the most searing pain that I've experienced as a college football fan and as a sports fan in general. But I can look at that and I can still say, man, what an awesome game. I think that was, as Martin Scorsese would say, pure cinema all the way through. It's exactly what we needed out of a national championship game. Call it AJ Styles, because that was phenomenal from start to finish. What I took away from this game is that it was a heavyweight slugfest, both teams showing their competitive character. Really, neither side refused to stay down for that long. Both teams were able to counter each other's punches. So Indiana would score a touchdown, then Miami would find a way to answer. Then Indiana would score again, Miami would answer again. Both teams found ways to make plays and keep themselves in the game, because there were times where I'm sure you were thinking, oh, that's got to be the game. There's no way they're coming back from that. And then all of a sudden, well, darn, they came back from that. For me, it was the blocked punt. I think that's when a lot of people thought the game was over overall, because usually you don't come back from that. Oregon did not come back from that. I thought Miami, no way they're going to come back from that. And they just kind of, hate to borrow Indiana's catchphrase, but they looked undaunted. Just went right down the field, and they scored the touchdown, obviously, with Mark Fletcher to finish up the drive, and it's 17-14. But if there's one thing we know about Indiana, they are not going to quit. No matter how many times you try to throw your best punch at them, they're going to have a counter punch that's 10 times as rough to deal with. And that's what we saw from Indiana. Man, Curt Cignetti made some big-time, gutsy coaching calls down the stretch. Calls that frustrated me as a fan, because you're thinking, oh, you got to stop. Miami's in business. And then all of a sudden, nope. No, you don't. Curt Cignetti's going to go for it on 4th and 5, and he's going to trust his Heisman-winning quarterback to put it in the end zone with one of the most iconic plays in national championship history. That play was awesome. That'll be used in promo material for 20 years down the line for the national title game. We'll get to Fernando Mendoza a little bit later. But, man, I got to give credit where credit is due. Even as a Miami fan who, hated watching the Canes lose, I have to have respect for Curt Cignetti in Indiana. The most efficient and execution-based football team in college football history. What they were able to do this season, purely from a schematic standpoint, unbelievable. Mike Shanahan, Bryant Haynes, that entire staff, those players, I don't know, man. Somebody said it was like watching robots on the field. It kind of is. They just play at such a steady and consistent rate. They don't let the circumstances get to them. They don't react to the pace that the game's being played at. They just go out there and execute. And they very rarely deviate from the plan, from the script, and it's worked out in every game this season. And that's really what separates them from a lot of other teams. They may not have the 4s and 5 stars, but I'll tell you what they do have. They have guys who know how to play the game of football and coaches who can instill discipline on them. Nobody else is going to be able to execute at their level. You may have the better talent, but you're not going to execute at their level. And that is exactly how Indiana won this national championship this season and won this game on this night. Indiana executed while Miami made mistakes. They had the punt blocked. Carson Beck, obviously through the late interception. Still feeling the pain from that one. And Miami didn't capitalize on several drives, and they allowed Indiana's drives to be extended. They committed costly penalties on 3rd and 4th downs that allowed the Hoosiers to keep the drive alive. And what did we say last week? You can't give Indiana anything, or they're going to make you pay for it. Well, they made Miami pay for it. Miami did not get off of that scot-free, even though they almost were able to come back late. Not enough. And the Hoosiers find their way to the 27-21 win. What this means for college football as far as, quote-unquote Cinderellas or new teams coming out of the woodwork, I don't know for sure. This is such an anomaly in the grand scheme of college football that you never know when you're going to see a team like Indiana ever again. If you will see one like Indiana ever again, I don't have any doubt the Hoosiers are going to compete for years to come. But I am curious to see if any other teams will use that blueprint. It is replicable, but I don't know if you can absolutely get it to the same level that they're at right now, because that takes a lot of things coming together, and Kurt Cignetti did a great job of using the portal, recruiting, bringing in Fernando Mendoza, getting a great staff. You can look at that and say, oh, we'll just do what they're doing, but, well, it's easier said than done, as the old saying goes. But in 2 years, Indiana goes from a national laughingstock to national champion. So that kind of tells the story, so to speak. And obviously, a lot of Hoosiers fans out there very excited. Couple MTSU athletics people, obviously very pumped. Shout out to Jake Rose and Allison Dahl. A couple people who work for MTSU athletics and I've worked with before, I should say. And I know they're very pumped about that. Wish it could have been the Canes, but I'm happy for you guys, and hopefully you're enjoying the national championship. Miami, though, I don't think there's any doubt they're set up for success as well. Despite how tough that loss was, I do think there's optimism for the Hurricanes. They're a talented team. They're a talented program. They've built themselves up year over year. I got to shout out Mario Cristobal. I will openly admit I have doubted him at times. I have thought that there were things that he was never going to be able to get past, like in-game decision-making, clock management. And while you can try to nitpick and do all that, I think that he's grown a lot as a coach, not just this season, but in his time at Miami. It's night and day what that program was in 2022 to what they are in 2025. They go from losing, I think, 7 games their first year to going out and winning all of their games except the national championship in the playoffs. So that's a heck of a turnaround. Carson Beck, it's tough to see him end his career on an interception, but he did a lot of good things for Miami this year, and I don't want that interception to make people lose sight of the fact that guy put Miami in the championship game with his performance against Ole Miss and all throughout the season. So he deserves credit too. Miami will be back. They're going to have, we know for sure, Malachi Toney for his sophomore season, the most electrifying player in all of college football, to borrow a phrase from Dwayne Johnson. Mark Fletcher coming back for yet another season. Obviously, he's tremendous on the ground. That offensive and defensive line losing some pieces, but trust me, they have, as the kids would say, some dogs waiting in the wings. So Miami will still be great on the line of scrimmage. That's what Mario's built them for. Quarterback's a bit of a question mark. We think it's going to be Darian Mensah, but obviously the whole transfer portal situation is still ongoing. Duke is now suing Mensah, so I don't know. Who knows where that's going to go. But Miami, rest assured, they're set up for success for years to come. I'm excited to see what they do in 2026, and Indiana as well. Lastly, I want to touch on real quick the SEC Big Ten arguments. I think the Big Ten has overtaken the SEC as far as championships go, as far as performance goes. Bowl season proves it, but I will say that the tides can quickly turn in college football. The Big Ten has won 3 straight national championships, but it just takes one team to go on a run to all of a sudden completely change the market. Texas is looking good next year. Georgia's still going to be a force. Ole Miss isn't going anywhere, and unfortunately, I mean, you got to watch out for Lane and LSU as well. Even if you're not the biggest fan of them, they're going to be a force next year as well. So I think the Big Ten certainly is the best conference, but I'm very curious to see if that will continue into 2026 and beyond. Should be fun. Well, that will do it for this week's edition of All Sports Talk. We will be back next week with another couple of exciting episodes. Make sure you enjoy the snow, and hopefully it doesn't keep us locked in for too long. But for all of you listening in tonight, thank you so much. We will see you next week, and have an electric night, everybody.
Sign-ups are going on right now for First Shot's Winter Basketball League in Rutherford